Dien Bien is a mountainous province in the northwest of Vietnam, known for its stunning natural landscapes and significant historical landmarks. The province is famously the site of the historic Dien Bien Phu battle in 1954, which marked the end of French colonial rule in Vietnam. With its lush green valleys, terraced rice fields, and diverse ethnic communities, including the Thai, Hmong, and Dao people, Dien Bien offers a rich cultural tapestry. Bordering Laos and China, it also serves as a gateway for cross-border trade and cultural exchange. Visitors to Dien Bien can enjoy exploring its historical sites, such as the Dien Bien Phu Victory Museum, and immerse themselves in the unique traditions of its local ethnic groups. A shocking criminal case took place here during the Lunar New Year of 2019, capturing nationwide attention. Together, we will unravel the mystery behind this case. At 10:00 p.m. on February 4, 2019, the Dien Bien City Police received a report from Mrs. Tran Thi Hien, the mother of victim Cao Mai Duyen. She stated that her daughter had gone to deliver chickens at 5:00 p.m. to a customer in Area C13, Thanh Truong Ward, Dien Bien Phu City, and had not returned home. The investigation revealed that the crime scene was fragmented, with the victim's body in one place, various pieces of evidence and related objects scattered in different locations, and the involvement of numerous tools and vehicles. Based on the evidence collected, authorities identified Vuong Van Hung as the person who had placed the order for Cao Mai Duyen's chickens. By the morning of February 6th, Lunar New Year's Eve, Vuong Van Hung became the first suspect with sufficient grounds for arrest. Initially, Hung confessed that he acted alone in committing the crime of murder and robbery. However, upon review, we found his claimed motive and narrative inconsistent with the evidence. Hung alleged he impulsively decided to kill the victim, but such an explanation did not align with the calculated nature of the crime. The case of Cao Mai Duyen, the delivery girl brutally murdered during the Lunar New Year period, has drawn immense public attention. Known as Special Investigation Case 2119D, this case has concluded with the trial and sentencing of multiple offenders. Once again, it has stirred intense debate in the media. Beyond the shocking and inhumane cruelty exhibited, the intricate details of the case also presented numerous challenges for investigators. This was no mere act of kidnapping, but a crime revealing the premeditated and sinister calculations of a criminal group involved in multiple offenses. Today, Crime Documentary Series will uncover untold stories from the tireless days and nights spent solving this case. We will explore the coordinated efforts of the Dien Bien Provincial Police and the collaboration with specialized units from the Ministry of Public Security. Located along the border with Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar, the infamous Golden Triangle has historically been a global hotspot for the production of illicit substances. While its role in manufacturing has diminished, the region remains a complex hub for drug trafficking. Consequently, areas like Dien Bien, Son La, and Lai Chau are frequently regarded as hot zones for criminal activity. The report of Cao Mai Duyen's disappearance arrived precisely on Lunar New Year's Eve, a time when families across the country were preparing to celebrate the arrival of the new year. Concurrently, the Dien Bien Provincial Police were tasked with securing numerous cultural and festive events, yet they allocated personnel to search for the missing young woman. At 10:00 p.m. on February 4, 2019, the Dien Bien City Police received a report from Mrs. Tran Thi Hien. She explained that at 5:00 p.m., her daughter Cao Mai Duyen had delivered chickens to a customer in Area C13, Thanh Truong Ward, Dien Bien Phu City. Hours had passed without contact. Duyen had not returned, and her phone was unreachable. City police immediately reported the incident to provincial authorities. Despite the demands of securing New Year's festivities, police leadership ordered teams to investigate Duyen's disappearance. Officers worked closely with the family, tracking possible routes Duyen might have taken and searching for leads. The provincial police headquarters instructed the Criminal Investigation Division to assist in locating the missing victim and clarifying the situation. Upon collaboration with the city police, numerous search teams were deployed. They worked tirelessly throughout the first and second days of the Lunar New Year, Yet there was no sign of Duyen until Dien Bien District Police discovered a motorbike matching her description. The vehicle, with license plate 27H17407, was found in Long Luong Commune, about 20 kilometers from the city center. The family confirmed it belonged to Chow Mai Duyen. The area where the motorbike was found posed several questions. Was the victim intentionally lured to this location, assaulted, or taken elsewhere? Multiple scenarios were considered, such as abduction or human trafficking. But the answers remained elusive. On the morning of February 7, 2019, the third day of Lunar New Year, police received a report about a body discovered in an abandoned house in Team 11, Toan Nua Commune, Dien Bien District. Upon confirmation, the victim was identified as Chow Mai Duyen, who had been missing for days. Investigators immediately collected all evidence and personal items associated with the victim. A thorough scene examination and autopsy revealed that Duyen had died from mechanical asphyxiation, consistent with strangulation marks on her neck. Based on post-mortem analysis, it was determined that she had died less than 12 hours prior to the autopsy. The discovery of Duyen's body extinguished any remaining hope of rescuing her alive. However, for the investigative team, the priority shifted to remaining calm, understanding the essence of the case and assessing the crime scene to identify the perpetrator. The victim's body was found lying on her back in a rice husk trough inside an abandoned house. The house, located near a construction site with no active workers during the holiday, was situated 100 meters from the main road in a sparsely populated area. From the evidence, investigators concluded this was not the primary crime scene, but merely a location for concealing the body. Interviews with the victim's family confirmed that some personal belongings, such as her phone, motorbike, and ATM card, were missing. Preliminary findings suggested a case of murder and robbery. Recognizing the severity, Major General Sung Ahong, director of the Dien Bien Provincial Police, declared the establishment of a special investigative task force labeled Case 219D. The task force comprised 8 senior officers, led by Colonel Trang Atua, deputy director and head of the Criminal Investigation Division. A total of 150 officers from units such as PC-01, PC-02, PC-03, and others were mobilized. They were instructed to employ all available investigative methods to uncover the truth. Initial analysis indicated that the victim had been held at a separate location before her death and transportation to the abandoned house. The hypothesis gained traction when the autopsy revealed she had died within 24 hours prior to discovery. The investigation turned to a key clue provided by the victim's family. On Lunar New Year's Eve, a young man had approached Duyen in the market, asking about purchasing chickens. He had taken her phone number and promised to call to arrange delivery. Through this lead, investigators identified Vuong Van Hung, born in 1984, as a suspect. Surveillance and investigative techniques confirmed his connection to the crime. After apprehending Vuong Van Hung as the initial suspect, the investigative team focused on interrogating him. Hung initially confessed to acting alone in the murder and robbery. He claimed that he had killed the victim, stolen her chickens, money, motorbike, and phone, and then hidden these items at his uncle's house in the Ban Phu area of Dien Bien District. However, the investigative team quickly concluded that Hung could not have carried out the crime alone and was likely just one participant in a larger scheme. Although Hung admitted to the murder, the crime scene evidence contradicted his claims. The victim's body was found placed neatly on a mat of rice husks, with no signs of disturbance or dragging. This arrangement was inconsistent with the actions of a single perpetrator. Furthermore, Hung's stated motive of robbery seemed illogical. For instance, the motorbike, the most valuable stolen item, was abandoned rather than sold. Hung's actions, such as slaughtering some of the stolen chickens for personal use instead of selling them, further undermined his robbery claim. The investigative team analyzed the evidence and determined that Hung's stated motive did not align with the facts of the case. His claim that the crime was an impulsive act lacked credibility. The evidence, including the meticulous placement of the body, suggested premeditation and collaboration. Hung also claimed he had used a steel wire to strangle the victim during the robbery. However, forensic analysis of the crime scene and autopsy findings revealed discrepancies. Investigators drained more than 10 kilometers of water along the Nam Rom River, following Hung's claim that he had discarded evidence there, but they found no items of relevance. This raised further doubts about his statement. Investigators widened their search, working tirelessly to rule out all implausible aspects of Hung's confession. On February 8, 2019, during a search in Than Truong Ward, Dien Bien Phu City, they discovered a chicken cage, a wooden stand, and a white sack belonging to the victim in a vacant lot between two houses at numbers 82 and 84 in Residential Group 11. The following day, February 9, 2019, they found a pair of gray pants confirmed to belong to the victim. The pants were discovered in a plastic bag hanging from a fence near a rice field at kilometer marker 190+200 on National Highway 12. The bag also contained a pair of yellow men's shorts and a sock. The combination of physical evidence, witness accounts, and forensic analysis led investigators to conclude that the crime involved a group of at least 3 individuals. The placement of the body and the absence of significant disturbance at the scene indicated that several people were likely involved in moving the body. The main crime scene was clearly elsewhere, as the location where the body was found lacked the expected evidence of a struggle. Through further investigations, a new suspect emerged. Bui Van Cong, born in 1975 and residing in Than Nua Commune. Cong, a known drug addict, exhibited behaviors consistent with criminal activity. His home was near the location where the victim's body was found. Additionally, Cong's wife, Bui Thi Kim Thu, was the person who initially reported discovering the victim's body. This proximity and involvement raised suspicions about their potential connection to the crime. Investigators discovered that Cong frequently associated with a group of individuals, including Pham Van Nhiem, born in 1976, Luong Van Hung, born in 1991, and Luong Van La, born in 1993. These individuals, all drug addicts, were regular visitors to Cong's home. Based on their relationships and activities, the task force expanded their investigation to include these suspects. To further investigate Cong, the task force employed strategic surveillance techniques. They orchestrated a scenario involving traffic enforcement and detained Cong for driving under the influence of drugs. His truck was impounded, and forensic analysis of the vehicle revealed bloodstains in the cargo area. DNA testing confirmed the blood belonged to Cao Mai Duyan, directly linking Cong to the crime. Confronted with the evidence, Cong initially denied any involvement in the crime or knowledge of others' participation. However, as the interrogation progressed and he was presented with irrefutable DNA evidence, Cong began to provide partial admissions. He confirmed that his truck had been used to transport the victim's body, but withheld further details about the crime or the identities of his accomplices. The task force continued to press forward, questioning Pham Van Nhiem after discovering that he had received drugs from Cong on the day of the crime. Evidence placed him at the scene. Similarly, Luong Van Hung and Luong Van La were arrested after investigators uncovered substantial evidence of their involvement. Interrogations revealed that the crime was more complex than initially suspected. Although Cong and his group admitted to roles in the abduction and murder, their testimonies hinted at a mastermind orchestrating the crime. Investigators worked meticulously to reconstruct the events and uncover the full extent of the group's activities. In parallel, forensic examinations revealed that the perpetrators had taken deliberate steps to destroy evidence. After the assault and murder, they washed the victim's body and tampered with evidence, including cleaning the genital area, making it challenging to detect traces of sexual assault. This deliberate destruction of evidence significantly complicated the investigation. After apprehending Nguyen Van Hung and Bui Van Cong, the investigative team focused their efforts on interrogating both suspects separately. However, the duo continuously made the investigation challenging. Hung provided a statement indicating a crime scene at an abandoned house along a canal. Later, the statements of Luong Van Hu, Pham Van Hiem, and Luong Van Hung also referred to this location. Yet, inconsistencies emerged as the suspects failed to present a cohesive narrative. The investigative team examined the abandoned house described in their testimonies. The crime scene investigators found significant traces of blood and cigarette butts, leading to an initial assumption that this might be the main crime scene. However, forensic analysis revealed that the blood samples collected did not belong to Chow Mai Duyen. Instead, this location was determined to be a decoy, deliberately cited by the suspects to mislead the investigators. Recognizing the suspect's strategy to divert the investigation, the officers faced the arduous task of re-evaluating all gathered evidence and testimonies. The suspects frequently introduced false narratives, offering up to 4 or 5 plausible yet fabricated scenarios in a single evening. Among them, Vuong Van Hung stood out as particularly cunning, leveraging his experience from multiple prior convictions to craft misleading stories. Faced with numerous unanswered questions, the task force noted a critical gap. None of the suspects appeared to assume the role of the mastermind. By the time 6 suspects had been apprehended, the investigators realized there were unresolved issues surrounding the case. Meetings were held to reanalyze the evidence and assess the motivations behind the crime. A core challenge emerged: determining the mastermind orchestrating this operation. The most perplexing question was why the group targeted Chow Mai Duyen. She was a university student home for the Lunar New Year, with no significant connections to the suspects or known conflicts in the area. This raised questions about the suspects' motivations and the relationships linking them to the victim. Additionally, the suspects' evasive and fragmented confessions compounded the difficulty of piecing together a cohesive timeline. The investigation expanded its scope, exploring potential connections between the suspects. Despite their initial claims, evidence suggested that some of the suspects, particularly Vuong Van Hung and Bui Van Cong, had not known each other prior to the crime. This lack of prior association hinted at a third party orchestrating their actions. Investigators identified discrepancies in their statements that pointed to the existence of a higher-level figure coordinating the group's activities. A pivotal breakthrough came when the task force scrutinized the drug connections of Bui Van Cong and his associates. It was discovered that Cong frequently purchased drugs from a figure named V. Van Toan. Analyzing records and surveillance from the 3 days surrounding the crime, investigators noted that multiple suspects, including Vuong Van Hung and Bui Van Cong, had been in contact with V. Van Toan. The task force launched a detailed investigation into Toan's activities. V. Van Toan and his wife, V. Thi Thu, were notorious figures in the area, known for trafficking drugs. Both had prior convictions and were suspected of running a drug distribution network from their home. The task force uncovered a significant detail. Toan and Vuong Van Hung had both served time in the same prison, suggesting a possible connection. Further investigation revealed that Toan had been a central figure in coordinating the group. With mounting evidence, the investigators focused on establishing Toan's role as the mastermind. Confronted with their findings, the suspects began to admit their involvement under Toan's direction. Toan's arrest was swiftly executed, and he was interrogated. Despite initial resistance, Toan ultimately confessed to orchestrating the abduction and murder of Chow Mai Duyen. The motives were rooted in a financial dispute. In 2009, Bui Van Cong and Toan had engaged in a drug deal with Tran Thi Hien, the victim's mother. Hien owed the group approximately $12,500 USD, which she had failed to repay. Toan devised the plan to kidnap Duyen as leverage to coerce Hien into settling the debt. Cong, who was also owed $1250 USD by Hien, supported this plan. The group met at Cong's house to finalize the details of the abduction. On the evening of February 4, 2019, Vuong Van Hung lured Chow Mai Duyen to an isolated location under the pretext of purchasing chickens. Once she arrived, the group ambushed her. Bui Van Cong used a pair of metal nunchaku to strangle her. With assistance from Pham Van Hiem, Luong Van Hung, and Luong Van La, who restrained her and carried her to a truck. They transported her to Cong's house, where she was held captive and repeatedly assaulted over the following 2 days. On February 7, 2019, realizing that Dien was near death, the group decided to kill her. They strangled her, placed her body in a truck, and transported it to the abandoned pigsty, where her remains were eventually discovered. Toan instructed the group to act normally and celebrate the new year as planned, cautioning them against discussing the crime. The trial of Case 219D brought to light the heinous crimes committed by a criminal network responsible for the abduction, sexual assault, and murder of Cao Mai Duyan. Each participant played a distinct role in the meticulously planned crime, and the sentences handed down reflected the gravity of their actions. At the center of this tragedy was Van Toan, the mastermind who orchestrated the attack. His motive stemmed from a $2,500 drug debt owed by the victim's mother, Tran Thi Hien. Unable to recover the money, Toan devised a cruel plan to kidnap Cao Mai Duyan and use her as leverage. Toan recruited several accomplices, including Bui Van Cong, a known drug addict with a history of criminal behavior. Cong acted as a key enforcer, providing transportation and coordinating the group's activities. Pham Van Neem, Luong Van Hung, Luong Van La, Pham Van Dung, and Cam Van Chuang all participated in the crime, taking turns to sexually assault the victim during her captivity. They demonstrated a chilling disregard for human life, and when Duyan's condition worsened, they collectively decided to kill her to cover up their crimes. Bui Thi Kim Thu, Cong's wife, further abetted the crime by assisting in concealing the body and misdirecting investigators with false statements. The court sentenced V. Van Toan, Bui Van Cong, Pham Van Neem, Luong Van Hung, and Luong Van La to death for their central roles in the planning, execution, and cover-up of the crimes. Pham Van Dung and Cam Van Chuang received life sentences for their participation in the assault and their failure to prevent the murder. Bui Thi Kim Thu was sentenced to 3 years in prison for her role in concealing the crime and obstructing justice. Amid the revelations, Tran Thi Hien, the victim's mother, faced scrutiny for her role in the events leading up to the tragedy. Evidence presented during the investigation revealed her involvement in drug trafficking, which had initially linked her to Toan's criminal network. Her unpaid debt was the catalyst for the crime. Hien was sentenced to 20 years in prison for drug-related offenses, reflecting her indirect but undeniable connection to the circumstances that led to her daughter's death. This case underscored the devastating consequences of criminal activities, particularly those tied to the pervasive drug trade in regions like Dien Bien. It highlighted the lengths to which criminal networks will go to settle disputes, often at the expense of innocent lives. While justice was ultimately served, with the perpetrators held accountable for their actions, the case serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing battle against organized crime and the need for vigilance to prevent such tragedies in the future.